have Senator Sabina Perez, Democrat, sitting by here. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Chris and Sabrina and KUAM. Thank you for having me on the show today.
Always. Well, we wanted to bring you on because you're the labor oversight, and there was a big reveal, if you will, with one of the former GDOL employees who had been working full time for the department, pled guilty. Bree?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was typing something. What was?
Yeah, no, the guy, GDOL employee, pled guilty, right?
Right. He's going to be pleading in the district court, but he did sign a plea agreement. And as Chris mentioned, you have oversight over the Department of Labor. And when Dave Delasola was on yesterday, he said this was an investigation that GDOL forwarded over to the FBI. And here we are, with the complaint and the charges that were lodged.
And so we brought you on as the labor oversight. What kind of conversation, if any, have you had with the director over this instance?
Yeah, so basically I wanted to reach out to him to schedule an oversight hearing on this. And I know he has a lot on his plate, so we're working to at least get some answers in the meantime regarding, this incident. But I believe, just to put a comment out there that, the behavior and actions of this employee, is really unconscionable because of his attempts to defraud the government. And it is a breach of trust that was placed in him, by the director, by his coworkers, and by the community. And he definitely, all this confidential information of the responsibilities that he had. And I think it's, like you said, it's important that this action was initiated, identified by Department of Labor themselves through their fraud protection measures. And it's important to see that, enforcement action is forthcoming. I believe today is the hearing for sentencing. And if I could just, let the audience know what is he up against? What are the penalties for this, right? So he committed 2 crimes. That he pled guilty to. And one of those crimes, he can get up to 10 years of imprisonment and up to $250,000 of fines, amongst other things. That's just for one of his crimes. That was for federal theft. The other crime is unauthorized use. So what he did is he used, I believe it was the personal information of another employee, and the computers he was unauthorized to use, and that would get him an additional up to 5 years of imprisonment and another $250,000 of fines, amongst other things. So I think that whichever penalties the court determines, it must send a message that these actions will not be tolerated and is not condoned. And in seeking further clarification from the director, I think it's important moving forward that we look at the hiring practices of temporary workers, and what are their operating procedures in protecting claimants, and in order to ensure that this does not happen again. So I think that needs to be looked at and dealt with and addressed.
Yeah, these are those jobs that, man, I want to say, Bree, that there was a time during this pandemic, but last year, where we had found out through a FOIA that there was a bunch of hires that they did at GDOL, of course, to process and pay out the FPUC and the PUA, but these were jobs that were not announced publicly. So I remember that there was a time where people were like, hey, we didn't even know about these jobs. All these people looking for jobs out here. So I don't know if that's something that you're going to go in on with the oversight hearing, maybe like the vetting that happened. But I mean, it is what it is. Like, could they have known that this guy was a Saki Melania, and then maybe they didn't know, and you know what I mean? But you're right, it's egregious, and it's, to me, it's like, yeah, defrauding the government. Okay, that's it too. But also to attempt to take someone's hard-earned PUA and divert it to his own bank account, that's to me, that's crazy, because we've heard so many stories about people waiting for their benefits, trying to get through because they got an issue with their PUA or their FPUC, and to find out that this kind of stuff was going on.
Right. Yeah, it makes me wonder, like, you're right. There are some people that were waiting on their claims, and whether this was the reason for that. And so, yeah, it's important that this doesn't happen again.
Do you think that there are any other instances of employees defrauding the system here? Because we asked Dave, and he was basically like, "No, that was it, right?"
What?
When we asked Dave if there were any other employees that,
No, yeah, he said that so far there's no other employees that have been caught doing anything like this, but he did say he did terminate a couple. He wouldn't give us an exact number that allowed Jerome Michael Cruz to have access to their login credentials.
right? Yeah. And so I guess when they get hired on, they're told not to share those login credentials. But, I mean, I wonder if it was something as simple as like, "Oh, man, can you give me your password because I got to just check something." I mean, if
Yeah.
it was that cost those people their jobs.
Sure. And then, I think too, also, for people that are not so computer savvy, they might leave their information unprotected. And so that's important to know whether there are procedures that are going to ensure that, what they do is not going to unwittingly, allow something like this from happening.
Right.
Because I know, yeah, a lot of us older people may not, be as computer savvy, and just typing things in. We don't know if we're leaving things
Right.
open for.
I don't know how many times I've seen my older relatives. They got their login and their password taped right on the monitor of the computer. I hope that's not what's happening at GDOL. But are there other issues that you plan on addressing during the oversight center? Because I mean, this kind of sounds a little basic, but the number one complaint that we get about GDOL is people cannot get a hold of them. I'm talking like email, phone. I know people who do a combination of email and phone, even sometimes even at the same time. But we always get these comments where we get Dave on, or people just. I mean, it seems so simple. Like, it's 2021. Why are we still dealing with the government agencies not answering the damn phone? I mean, it just seems like, it's the future already. Why don't we answer the phone? But that's like the number one complaint. So, are you planning on asking about that?
Well, yeah, I think the answer is, yeah, that definitely was brought up. I think in the past in hearing, and I think a lot of it, and I see this with DRT as well, right? Is the capacity issue. There's just so much need and not enough resource to really handle all these, customer needs. And so, yeah, I think moving forward is, how are we to address that issue? And he's, director's also mentioned that himself. And, I'm sure this really damaged that ability to build capacity. It's like, now who can you trust, right? You can put everything in place, and, you can't really tell, certain people's character necessarily. Some people are really good at hiding that. So it's like, how are you going to build capacity in a way that's, you're ensuring that who you're bringing on is trustworthy, right? Yeah, I don't know if there's any test for that specifically, because they can interview really well, right? We know people that interview really well, but when it comes time to do the job, it's a different story. So I think, yeah, it's a balancing act for sure. The capacity, and that's something I think that needs to be addressed too. Is that that's something the question that I brought up with him is how can we help to build that capacity?
Right.
And I know budget is coming up. What can we do with the funds coming in? I mean, I think that needs to be addressed in making sure that we're putting people that we trust in place and building that capacity.
Mm.
And I think that's one of the biggest issues when it comes to customer service.
Right. I mean, it started out good, Senator, where they were detailing people from various agencies over to 311, but now I think there's just one guy at 311 now. So people have migrated back towards the agencies. But you're right. I mean, it seems pretty simple to have a call center, and I think that's kind of like the idea behind 311. But what good is a call center if no one answers the calls, or there's just so many calls coming in that it's shooting to voicemail? And that's like, I mean, it's a reason, but to me it sounds like an excuse that, I mean, we can't even get enough people to answer the phone. And so when you call in, if I'm a 311 or a GDOL or anything and I'm on the phone helping Sabrina with her claim, your call coming in just goes to voicemail.
Right.
And I mean, it's like I said, it's 2021. I don't know why that's still, it's kind of crazy. But, you know, you talk about the $661 million that's coming in here. We've been getting a lot of comments about this RISE Act, and my memory is failing me now, Senator, but where were you on the RISE Act? Is this something that you supported and voted for?
Yeah, I did vote in favor of it. And I guess it was because, you know, there's money available through federal funds.
Right.
Yeah, people are in need of it. You know, we should be able to provide that opportunity for them.
Right. So, what is then, I guess, your reaction to hear that it's currently under legal review by the governor's legal team, as well as
The governor's AG?
with the attorney general's office on paying out the RISE Act?
Yeah, I think that, you know, there was some issue about not being equally, it wasn't provided equally to everybody, because we did limit the funds we wanted to make sure the funds are going to the people that needed it most when I voted for it. And so, you know, if you had, if you were a government worker, you know, we wanted to make sure that it went to the most needy, the neediest people. I think that was the reason for that. So yeah, I think that, you know, I think we need to balance the use of these funds to ensure that we are also creating the foundation for a sustainable economy. So, you know, we can't expect, you know, federal aid to be there forever. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's important that whatever money that comes in, this could be potentially the last fund, you know, who knows, right? And we need to make sure that it makes the most impact. And the way I see that is that we are investing in the starting of industries that can help build resiliency in our community. So I think, you know, that there has to be a balance between direct aid as well as investment back into the community that's going to continually give back. So, yeah, I need to look at all the information.
Yeah. But do you think that you should still pay the RISE Act, pay it out? Whether it's the use of any of the $661 million or the $30 million in transfer authority that was provided to her in the public law?
I think there could be some use of it, right? I mean, I believe the one the Senator Moreland introduced, I think he increases it even more. Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, there's a case for actually implementing that law. You know, whether, yeah, and as far as proportion wise, what you know, what are the thing is, we don't know what the other projects that are being looked at. So I think it's important to it's always important to look at priorities, you know, reprioritize as needed. So without knowing that information, you know, it's hard to really say yes or no, but I think we should provide some relief.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that former Senator Regine Bisco-Lee, I mean, this was her baby, right? And, you know, it's passed. It's not even an idea anymore. It's an actual law. And so I think what we have here is a dangerous precedent. I think the governor set this precedent when Speaker Teresa Lahi's bill to give GMH $10 million was signed. It was the law, and they chose to ignore that. And now they're choosing to ignore another law. And, you know, I mean, I can't remember the last time the AG came out with a legal opinion that differed from what the governor wanted, because it never happened. And so I can kind of see the writing on the wall that she's sending this over to the AG, and he's just going to rubber stamp something the same way they did with the hiring of Frankie Roslin at the port. And they're going to hold that and hold it up and not pay out this aid, which I think people need it. So I don't know why Senator Regine Bisco-Lee is not out here saying, hey, pay the damn RISE Act. Or, you know, I mean, I don't understand how the governor and her advisors allowed the Republicans to now be the ones who are saying, hey, pay this out, when it was a Democrat thing. It's kind of like, what's going on down there, guys?
Yeah, and I think we definitely need transparency in how this money is going to be spent. I know she mentioned that she wanted to dedicate 300 million to the building of a new hospital.
Right.
So, I mean, and although it may cost more than that for sure, it's like up to over $700 million. So, yeah, it's we have to look at the priorities, and balance them out. I think it's a balancing act for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's important to make sure that we don't use up this money on a one-time thing and have it kind of develop this circular, sustainable economy.
Right. I mean, it's going to be tough ahead with the governor having this blank check for $661 million, and then you guys managing, whatever revenues happen to be left over for the budget. But I wanted to ask, because I brought this up with Superintendent John Fernandez. I mean, if you guys really wanted to kind of hold the governor accountable and be transparent with this $661 million, when she gives you the list of what she's going to spend it on, do you think that the senators would entertain the idea of looking at that list and seeing how much money she's committing to different agencies, and then going to those agencies and de-appropriating funds from the general fund to kind of force the governor's hand? Because I mean, there's agencies that are getting shortchanged, and I'm just not sure how prudent or expedient it's going to be to sit there and wait for the governor to approve these agencies a wish list. And that's what it's coming down to. You got the mayors, I mean, with their hat in their hand, going to Adelup saying, please, Mrs. Governor, can we get some of this $661 million? And I just don't know if that's a process that or people should be comfortable with. Do we need to go kiss the ring? When clearly the legislature has a role in determining how money should be spent.
Yeah, and that you're right. You're absolutely right about the budget. We're not working in a coordinated fashion, and if we know that certain agencies are getting the funds, yeah, that would definitely inform us on where to appropriate the money appropriately. So, yeah, I think this is something that this is one of the shortfalls, is that we haven't developed a comprehensive plan for recovery. At least, for those that are in some of the senators, they're not privy to this. Whatever the governor has decided.
Mm.
And, I think it's unfortunate that we're not doing this, because I think the more people that sit at the table, I think the better the result can be.
Right.
And that's what I believe in. Is that collective effort is what's going to get us through, and by competing and doing working in silos is not going to help us at this time. It doesn't ensure resiliency of our community.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm one that believes in that sort of thing.
I think it's consistent, though. I think with this, was it Bill 11 that the governor vetoed? I think it sends a message that she wants to call the shots, whether it's with extending or ending public health emergencies, or whether or not it's determining how to spend the $661 million. I just have to laugh, because when we had her on last week or the week before, I was asked her, I said, how involved do you think these senators should be? And her answer, it kind of implied that she thinks you guys' involvement should be an afterthought or an aside, which, I mean, it's troubling to me, because you're right, the more the merrier. Last time I checked, this is an elective democracy. Stand by, guys. 8:05, we're KUAM FM, Agotni, Guam. On the breeze, that's just one part of our multimedia broadcast every morning. KUAM TV viewers, thanks for joining us. It's been a great time. There's more great programming coming up on great KUAM TV. You can also jump on our Facebook Live feed for KUAM News. My name is Chris. That's Sabrina. She's actually Googling something, because we just got a message from Senator Chris Duenas. I was surprised. He said the AG's opinion came out yesterday, and it says that, and we're waiting for confirmation, it says that the RISE Act is legal and enforceable. So that, I'm jaw on the floor here, because I was just saying, I didn't think he was going to go against the Gov. So interesting. It's 8:05 again, KUAM TV. My name is Chris. For Sabrina Salas, Ventanani, and the Link fam. Esta, adios. We're back. Okay, so we actually do have this legal opinion from the AG.
Yeah, and I just got it, so
yeah. Just.
Yeah. So it says half a day, Governor. This is by Levin Camacho. We are aware that there has been some concern where certain criteria of eligibility for economic relief provided for under Public Law 35-136, the RISE Act, is permissible. Specifically, individuals are not eligible for relief under the RISE Act if they retired from or were employed by the government of Guam or the federal government at any time during tax year 2020. The general rule is that social and economic legislation is presumed to be valid even where classes of people are treated differently. Those attacking the rationality of the legislative classification have the burden to negate every conceivable basis which might support it. In the ordinary case, a law will be sustained if it can be said to advance a legitimate government interest, even if the law seems unwise or works to the disadvantage of a particular group, or if the rationale seems tenuous. Our office has a responsibility to defend constitutional challenges to local laws unless we believe the law is unconstitutional. Based on the deferential standard of review, it is unlikely that a legal challenge brought on the grounds that the RISE Act excludes Government of Guam employees and federal employees would be successful. The purpose of the RISE Act is to provide financial relief of those impacted by the public health emergency. Whether one agrees with the classification drawn, it is not arbitrary to find that members of the private sector have been more adversely impacted during the COVID-19 pandemic than Government of Guam federal employees and retirees. That's from the Attorney General in a letter to the governor.
Wow. I'm surprised, but then again, this RISE Act, this is political points. Whoever really goes in and champions this and gets it. I mean, it's a freaking law. I mean, why do you have to champion a law that says you got to pay people aid? It's insane. But I think the AG is going to get some points for this. I mean, remember, he's up for re-election next year. Huh? So AG come out with an opinion that can pad your pocket a little bit, and, more power to him. But like I said, I'm just surprised because it has seemed like when the AG says jump, or when the governor says, hey, give me a legal opinion, it's usually, and they get it from the AG's office, it's usually right in line with what the governor wants. So I guess it was a pretty simple and plain read of the law. What do you think of that, Senator, the AG's opinion?
Well, I think, it definitely, it should be enacted. So that just clears the way of it being, there's no question that, it should be implemented.
So basically, all right, time to cut the checks.
Yeah.
Well, I think we got to get the money, right?
Yeah.
That's all I have to say with that one. I think, it's ready to be implemented.
Mm-hmm.
But I also wanted to add that, in regards to Department of Labor and that employee, I do have a bill that I'm, almost ready to introduce regarding ethics. And I think it's a long time coming that, the government employees be required to have ethics training. And I feel that this is a proactive measure. We're hearing a lot of issues coming up, and I think it's important that we, create a civil service workforce that is going to uphold the public trust, and if we can invest in them through ethics training, just like we do with the elected officials and appointees, I think it would be good. In looking at procurement training too. We see that there has been a decrease in protests, and there has been benefits in investment in training our workforce. So I see that ethics training for all GovGuam employees is essential to ensure that the public trust is maintained.
Right. Yeah, I just did a FOIA on who's taken the ethics training and who hasn't. So. What you said about the procurement protests being down, does that have anything to do with the fact that we spent the last year under this superpowers emergency procurement where, just like the whole bid process was just thrown out the window? And so maybe that's why...
Actually, that is based on the OPA audits that were done prior to the pandemic.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. What about, I just noticed just this morning on the legislature's website, there was... I want to say a report or something was posted regarding, was it sole source procurement or emergency procurement purchases? And it was from January all the way till December of last year. Have you had a chance to look at that?
Yeah, so and looking at, I just had a chance to look at it really briefly.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a lot of the sole source are related to the computers
Mm-hmm.
or that type of service. But I haven't looked at it closely enough. But there is a lot,
Yeah,
which
there was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to see if you'd seen it and if there was anything that was on that list that kind of stood out or jumped out at you, where you were like, well, what was that for? Um, but I guess if you hadn't really looked at it, maybe we could talk a little bit later because
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
get a chance to really look thoroughly
I
through
saw
it
some
either.
things on there that was like, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it right now, and sole source I think there are some questionable ones because sole source it should be only for those services that you can't find another vendor to do it, and there are some there that are
Yeah.
questionable.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and looking at this list, and this is a little anecdotal, but I just hope, and you can kind of see it was a little bit of spoil system going on where it's like, oh, this supporter is going to get this contract, or they're going to get all this money for providing this service or whatever. And I just hope it's not the same way with the 661 million where
Mm-hmm.
we're just going to see it go to, the administration's friends and families.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 This requires an oversight for sure.
Yeah.
This is
All right. I like you.
Yeah, it's 27 pages. Anybody that's listening and or watching the Facebook live stream, if you want to see this whole list, you
Yeah.
can. It's available. It's at GuamLegislatures.com's website. Just click on messages and communications, and then
We'll get Jason to put it in the comments.
yeah,
We can, yeah. Jay, can you put that in the comments? I'll put it in the chat, and then you slam it in the comments.
send him the link.
Yeah, Senator, and I
like-
think that this is going to really be a lot of what we're doing as we crawl out of PCOR 3 and as we return to normalcy is now, I like to think of it as the smoke is clearing, the dust is settling, all the things that were done under the cover of this pandemic. And I'm not saying that, in a snide way. I'm just saying that there was a whole pandemic going on and people were buying stuff. And because we were trying to promote a message of stay home and, let's not kill each other with this virus, the media wasn't able to keep one eye on what was being spent and what was being bought and one eye on the messaging for the pandemic. So I think now that we're kind of out of it and we're not, staying home locked up because we're scared of catching the virus, I think everyone's got to get to work and kind of really go through these expenditures and the actions that happened during the pandemic with just a fine-tooth comb, because I think there's a lot of stuff that got by a lot of people.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm really glad that GSA actually sent this down to the legislature.
Yeah. She's
So,
geeking out.
yeah.
Look at her. She's zoning out. And then she's like, what's that? Well, we'll let you go, Senator. We're kind of running.
So this is something that you said you might be calling an oversight hearing on, or
I think yes, definitely, because there's also the emergency procurement. It also provided a list of emergency procurement that needs also to be there needs to be a public hearing for this because with the new law that was passed, in order to if these agencies that procured this want to continue the emergency procurement, they would have to have a public hearing for all of these emergency procurements that we're seeing, and that has to take place end of this month if they want to continue with emergency.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would have to go through the traditional procurement methods.
Pretty interesting, some of the awardees of this sole source stuff. Some familiar faces, let's just put it that way. Senator, thank you so much for your time this morning.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day, guys.
Right on.
take care.
I like that. She looks like she's like, I got a project now.
It's long. It's really a long.
Yeah, it's 27 pages.
I mean, what supplement? No, I'm not even. Wow, $357,000, $275,000. I'm just wow.
I think we're good.